Before we begin today's conversation, we want to acknowledge that we'll be discussing topics related to sexual and reproductive health, mental well-being, and personal experiences that may be sensitive for some viewers. Our goal is to create a safe and open space for discussion, but we understand that these topics can be triggering or emotionally challenging. If you find any of our content distressing, we encourage you to seek support from a trusted friend, family member, or professional, or you can reach out to our Big Sis chatbot. Viewer discretion is advised. Up next on DiCHiPi UNFiLTERED.
Ministerial greetings.
Yes. All protocol observed.
Period. So my work is really just about menstrual health and just really empowering and normalizing the conversation around menstruation. So I am the founder of QRate. It's a non-profit where we spread period positivity, like you mentioned. And I think the inspiration for it came from my first period. So I had a very terrible time.
I heard the story.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Like I was 10. I didn't know what was happening. Felt like I was dying. And it just caused a really negative relationship with my body every time my period would come.
I think in your TED Talk, you spoke about how, you did this breathing exercise towards the end of your TED Talk. Okay, I need everyone in the room to breathe in. And then they breathe out. And then you're making them breathe. And then towards the end of the breathing, okay, this time when you breathe out, I want you to say, vagina. Yes. And the whole room burst out giggling because even a room of grown adults is giggling at the word vagina. Which is insane. DiCHiPi Tsasauda. Welcome to another episode of DiCHiPi UNFiLTERED, and today I will be your host. My name is Barbara Moahi, and it's absolutely fabulous getting to sit and chat with you, unpacking exactly what goes on in DiCHiPi by JiK'iZiNTO. And today I don't have a co-host, but I do have a guest, and our guest is royalty. It's a minister. Okay, well, we call her the Minister of Menstruation, Candice. I don't actually know how to say your surname. How do I say it?
Candice Chirwa.
Yeah,
emphasis on the R.
Because I'm like, every single time I want to say someone's name, I'm like, what if it has an accent or it has a special something? But you're a very accomplished lady.
Oh, wow.
I did not know this.
Girl.
I mean, I know you to be the lady who walks around shocking people with the little patches so that they know what it's like to be a girl in this world.
Yeah.
But I did some research, and you're a founder or co-founder of an award-winning organization called QRate that's on a mission to spread period positivity. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So, ministerial greetings.
All protocol observed.
Period. So my work is really just about menstrual health and just really empowering and normalizing the conversation around menstruation. So I am the founder of QRate. It's a non-profit where we spread period positivity, like you mentioned. And I think the inspiration for it came from my first period. So I had a very terrible time.
I heard the story.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Like I was 10. I didn't know what was happening. Felt like I was dying. And it just caused a really negative relationship with my body every time my period would come. And it was only when I was 21 that I discovered that a lot of young girls around the country, but also around the world, feel the same way when they have their first period. So something needed to change around that. And I just felt that if I had the ability and the knowledge to do that, then let me do it instead of just keeping the information and choosing to just idly sit by and continue the stigma. Let me actually give back. So the journey of period positivity has, I think, initially had to be, for me individually, getting rid of my own stigmas and myths.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't be going into schools and communities saying, let's talk openly, let's say the word period, let's say the word vagina, but I couldn't do it myself. So I had to unlearn, I had to debunk. And that in itself was such an empowering process because I started to realize that there's just a lot of unnecessary myths as a way to isolate young girls from just being confident on their period. So that is my journey as the social entrepreneur part of you. Author, TED talker,
gender activist,
everything.
I'm just a girl.
I'm just a girl.
You're just a girl, but you're a girl doing big things. I watched your TED talk actually on bad blood. But I know you've been on many other platforms like NetBank, the Oprah Winfrey School. There's so many doors and platforms that have been given to you
Yeah.
to spread that message, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And you're putting that brain to use, because I know you're also part of the people who are behind the brainchild that is JiK'iZiNTO.
Yeah.
You worked on that?
It was really great being part of the focus group of like being part of activists and policymakers and just basically thinking big, dreaming big as to say, what would this youth movement look like where young people just have the capacity to dream and the potential, and it's just unlimited. And we spent 2 days learning about the potential of the brand and then learning about what other things could come out of it. And that was really exciting. And it's lovely to see it breathing life now and having a really great impact on young people to just be like, I can be who I am, but also provide impact and do good. So that's incredible to see.
No, we
Yeah.
thank you, ma'am. We thank you, because we wouldn't be sitting here today if
I
it
know.
wasn't for the fruits of your brain.
Oh, wow.
And just in case somebody doesn't know what JiK'iZiNTO is about, I think we should take a look at the JiK'Festo just to get a little something as to what this potential that's inside of all of us is, and then we'll chat about it some more.
Period.
Let's go.
There's something undeniable about us in this moment. That pulsing energy the whole world can't help but watch. You feel it. How we're shifting the way things have been, creating a new narrative. Even when good tricky, good tanks, we're finding gaps. Going from all the go-wishing, no matter where you're from. One thing about us, we'll be unapologetic about how we express ourselves. We'll move like the aim is not to sweat, whether it's to piano, como at Vogue nights. Yeah, ne? What we do is elevated, never emulated. We sew our culture into design, use fabric to show how we thrive. Have drip that's gone international. Slightly DiCHiPi, but we've made groove a sport of its own. Can shoot our shot, make a viral moment life-changing. Can be the pretty girl from Joburg that wins a Grammy. Can be architects of a new South A. Can know that even sitting at home, there's all this potential waiting to be unlocked. Even when life's not made sure. No matter the odds, people will stop sleeping on you. You'll stop sleeping on you long enough to rewrite your reality. So, show it's our time. Our time to shine. Our time to be generation starters. Our time to say things with our chest. Our time to JiK'iZiNTO.
Okay, so I was a part of I don't know if you saw me in my pink.
Oh, yes,
as
girl.
usual.
Yes.
And I
It
think
suits you,
for
by the
me,
way.
thank you so much. They don't call me Bobby for
That's your
nothing.
colour. That's your colour. I need you to trademark it. Yeah.
You will
See?
teach me. And we need to get someone in here actually on the podcast to teach us about how to have creative ideas
Yes.
and get them trademarked so that I can protect my IP and become a business social. What is
Entrepreneur.
it that you said? Exactly.
You see,
That's
you
who I
see
wanna
the
be.
JiK'iZiNTO effect.
That's it,
It's
though.
unlocking the potential.
It's a lot.
Do you
And I think
understand?
beyond like unlocking your potential as a person,
Yeah.
I think they've really created a community and a safe space where we can be open and have conversations that aren't so easy to have.
100%.
Sexual health being one of them, sexual reproductive health being one of them, periods as well. I think in your TED Talk, you spoke about how like you did this breathing exercise towards the end of your TED Talk. Like, okay, I need everyone in the room to breathe in. And then they breathe out. And then you're making them breathe. And then towards the end of the breathing, okay, this time when you breathe out, I want you to say, vagina.
Yes. Yes.
And the whole room like burst out giggling because even a room of grown adults is
Yes.
giggling at the word vagina,
Vagina.
which is insane.
Yeah.
So for me, I wonder, as young Candice growing up after having that experience, where do you get the audacity to now walk into rooms and say, we're going to have these bold conversations about vaginas and penises and everything else in between?
Purely because I didn't have that person when I was 10. And ultimately, even in the making of these workshops, I was saying what is needed in not only just creating a safe space, but just ultimately being normal. And for me, it was just like, okay, we can complicate it, we can bring it, but let's just also just have the confidence and just realize that nothing's bad is going to happen when you say the word vagina. It's not like Thor's gonna come and just bolt you with it. No, you're okay, and it's a biological term. And for me, what was interesting about that TED Talk specifically, I just came up with it in the moment. I was just like, look, I said what I had to say. I spoke about my journey. I spoke about the impact that period poverty has. But I also just want people to understand that there's an equal responsibility here, that each and every one of you that are sitting here, your parents, your teachers, your guardians, so you have a responsibility to educate and
100%.
empower. But you also need to be period positive yourself. So let's start with the basics. Let's talk about where period blood comes out of, and that is the vagina. And so what I love about it is when we do that vagina exercise in the beginning of the workshop and at the end, the girls in particular feel more confident at the end because now they actually start screaming and doing war cries. Like, this is
War
what,
cries about vaginas.
yes, they'll be like, this is my vagina.
That's so cool.
This is my vagina. You know, like, that's the empowerment that is the tangible. And I think that's the reason why I always want to be doing these workshops more and more, because there's more girls that need to be impacted. But we're not deliberately exclusively leaving boys out of this, because they need to be empowered. They need to be educated.
100%.
They need to be menstrual allies. I just wish I had someone like that when I was 10. I just wish I had someone who was as positive, who was as confident, who was as bubbly around menstrual health, that is also tied to puberty. Because puberty is an awkward time.
It's a lot.
There's a lot going on, okay? Your hips are widening. Your breasts are getting larger.
You know, when my boobs were growing, it starts off on one side, right? And then the other boob starts to grow. So I was standing in the living room. I actually told my boyfriend the story the other day. My dad made me take off my shirt. So now I'm standing, my mom and my dad were on the couch, and they're both like just touching and pressing, like, is she sick? Does she have cancer? What's going on? Why is there a lump in her? And now when I tell the story, it's actually wild to think that my whole father was just there touching on my real life boob and thinking that it's something wild. But I think parents play such a big role in shaping that positivity in young people. And I wonder, did you have someone like that in your life? Because you're saying you didn't have anyone to kind of have that conversation with. So what was the conversation like at home when you decided, Amanda to the period, Amanda to the vagina?
Let me tell you, so when I was 10 and I came back home, I just used a lot of toilet paper, put in my underwear, waited for my mom to come back. And then I told her when she got back, I was like, I'm bleeding. And I think she could tell, like, okay, this girl is not okay. She's stressed. This must be it. I think she was shocked that it started really early, because the average age for menstruation is 13. I was only 10. So that was a bit concerning. And so she had the conversation, but I don't know if you notice when parents have a conversation with you, the tone, right? And also where they sit with you. I was sitting right across from her as if I was put in the hot seat and I was in trouble. Like I don't know, burnt the TV, you know, I don't know. I did terrible things.
Something bad.
And that, I think, added to the distress of, this is happening to me. I'm not in control of it and I feel bad. I appreciate that I got information about how to use, at the time, the pad, what I need to do about it, but the constant emphasizing note was, don't let anyone know. So that, for me, made me feel, again, isolated. It made me feel like, okay, I'm dealing with this. I can't even speak to my friends about it. I can't even speak to my sister about it.
Even your friends, that's deep.
And I think from her perspective, she's trying to protect me.
Yeah.
Because, again, the menstrual myth and the stigma is that when you see menstrual blood, you're associated with bad blood.
Yes.
And therefore, you know, as a mom, she wants to protect her child. So wear the pad. Make sure you're wearing double the underwear so that no one knows. And when you're disposing it, make sure it's in a little packet. And I get that. But what I felt was very crucial for me as a menstrual educator was to ensure that we are moving that narrative from fear to celebration.
Yes.
Because, yes, it's a transition into adulthood, but there are a lot of parents that I know that will actually host, like, period parties. So they get comfortable.
How?
Yeah.
I didn't get a period party.
Listen, you get, like, your first period box that has all these
Note to
treats.
self.
And it's just constantly always being filled up every month because of the things that you need. And I think that is positive parenting that is needed in society.
That is so cool.
Because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of information. You can go on certain AI, what. But as parents, you have a responsibility in being that safe space for your children. So constantly having the conversations and not a once-off conversation is super important. Constantly allowing the space where whether it's a Friday or a Wednesday night where for an hour they can ask any question. And as a parent, you can admit, I don't know this, my love, but let's research it together. Or we can get this book and we read it together. Is so important because your children will then always rely on you to just constantly have these conversations. And you then as a parent won't feel terrified if you're like, oh, are they with that boy? Are they sexing out there? Because you've had those conversations already.
100%. And I think I like what you kind of drew on the fact that you were sitting across from your mom and the tone was kind of like down, where it needs to be positive. We need to be celebrating that you're now stepping into this new milestone of adulthood. I want a party now. I'm going to tell my mom after this. When I call and say, Mama, I didn't get a period party and I heard that's what other people's parents are doing. I'm 25, but I need that party yesterday. But just that celebratory situation. And what I loved in the DiCHiPi episode that last aired is that when what's her name? Mpumi with the eyeshadow. Hey, that girl is so like out there.
She
just
beats the gods. I love her. Love her.
When I met Azana in real life, I literally was like, is she Mpumi or is she the... I couldn't tell because I was like, the makeup is so gone now. Like everything is so chill. But I love the way that as much as she was celebrating herself in her makeup, she was also celebrating her friend in this now interest in having sex and boys and spoke her through the different condoms and the ways that she can educate
she's
herself.
like, banana's my favorite.
Banana's my favorite.
Yeah, I was like,
she's very out there. And
I
my
love
thing
this.
is like, she was very positive about it. Like, it wasn't even like, Chomi, this is a condom. It looks like this. But I think let's watch a bit of the episode just to get a refresh in case you don't know. And then we'll come back and dissect everything around that.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Jonga chomi when I yellow banana. For everything, vegan, chomi female condoms. The whole stash we want.
My sister, it's a lot.
Chomi, variety is the spice of life. When how about me? My personal favorite. Get banana chomi. I tried it with the pasta salad.
So I think for me, what I found very interesting about that situation is like, it's such a happy situation. Like, she's showing her all the different condoms. There's a female condom, there's a male condom, there's this, there's that. And I know for me, growing up, sex wasn't such an exciting conversation to have especially because Ntabiseng and Mpume are brown-skinned girls. And within that community, we're always told, like, don't date, leave boys alone, run away.
Books before boys
because boys bring babies, which is true.
It's biologically true.
It's true. But I think it doesn't take away from the fact that when I have my first period, naturally the next step is that I'm going to start feeling things. I'm going to start looking at people differently. So how did you go through that journey of embracing the feeling things?
Well, I went to...
It's the laugh for me.
You know, you always have to do a rewind. It goes...
No, it really does.
So I went to a private Catholic school. So that already tells you.
Wow.
You couldn't... You know when that song, let's talk about sex, baby. No, you're talking about... You're talking about... Yes, that's it. You can't, right? The first interaction around sexual health was by a third-party organization where they separated the girls and the boys.
100%.
And then they told the girls the implications or the consequences of what happens if you fall pregnant before marriage. And if, you know, there's that, you go to a specific place, it's not groove. It's definitely not groove. And then they'd also say if you do engage in sex in a relationship before marriage, you'll catch this thing called a blue waffle. Now,
I remember that because we also had those pictures circulating in the group chat. Well, I think it was Mixed back then. I don't know what it was, but it was going around and we were just like, that blue waffle disease? I don't even know if it's a real thing. Is that a real thing?
Listen, I know we're having a conversation, but I'm going to break the fourth wall. Now listen here, as the minister.
Yes,
you cannot traumatize young minds with images and not even educate and explain and inform what it happened during puberty, the feelings that you'll develop, and also just feeling okay. Like, okay, I have these feelings for someone and I want to romantically, intimately. You're not safeguarding. Instead, what you're doing is you're instilling fear. And chances are, when you instill fear, especially in young people who want to be like Vin Diesels and be like, yeah, I'm gonna show you that I'm the exception. They will do it. They will definitely test it and do it. So I think for me, what was interesting is, yes, I definitely got the shock of my life. I definitely knew that I'm not going to partake in these things because as a Catholic girl, I want to have my relationship with God and I love God. But what was so interesting was when the girls were in the classroom, where were the boys? The boy child was on the field playing. So they were also not getting the same information. They were not also getting the same form of fear to be told that you should not partake in this. And there's an imbalance. There's a complete unequal way of how we're educating young people on sexual and reproductive health. Because it's almost as if, you know, you're not giving them the choices to then the agency to choose
100%.
and equipping them to say, if I do choose, I think that's the choice. The choice is let them choose instead of just say, don't do it, because you're totally killing that vibe. So that's my own personal experience. I think from what we see with QRate and on the ground, right? Young people are engaging in sex, but young people want to get information as to where can they be empowered? Is the condom the only choice? What happens when I am feeling symptoms? What type of symptoms should I look out for?
Because the symptoms are all the same.
Yes. So they want to be empowered. And so we can't be as a society feeling so scared to have these conversations, because the reality is they are having it. Let's just choose to empower them so they make safer choices.
Because it's going to happen. I think for me, it's like, if I'm too afraid to speak to my mom, or if I'm too afraid to go to a clinic, like Ntabi saying, where she was having even nightmares of like people laughing and, you want to have a sex? And it's like, if that's the thing that's going on in my mind, and the only person I feel safe enough to talk to about it is the person I'm trying to engage with, that means I only get to go off of the information he gives me, or whoever my then sexual partner will be. So there are then elements of safety that are not taken to protect yourself as a girl. Because I think if you watch the episode, you'll see how they speak about, okay, yes, there are other options outside of a condom. But like that also means you're not protected from STIs. And there are other implications to all of that. So yes, you might not fall pregnant, but because pregnancy has been made to be like the fear point of top, everything, like don't do it because you will be pregnant. That's all you think about. And you think as long as you've prevented pregnancy, everything will be fine. But no, that's not the case.
I mean, even in the episode where Ntabi's going to the clinic and she sits down, I think what's interesting is to see how the anxiety's depiction, where she's thinking already worst case scenario, when in fact it's like everyone's at the clinic for the same thing. The exact same thing. They want access to sexual and reproductive care, or they want to get access to contraceptives. And the lady that she sits next to, and she's like, oh my goodness, you know, I thought I was going to hell because the STIs, it was burning. And she's like, no, she's just an STI. It was really interesting because we always think the worst case because we're not, again, educated and empowered and informed.
100%.
So having these conversations is really, really important. And even if you feel as a young person, you can't rely on your parents, whether there's a disconnect, do you have a support system as your friends where whether both of you are like, okay, let's go to the clinic and let's spend the day together to support each other so that we can learn and equip each other is super important. But I also do think that there is a mandate that's required from government, from society, civil society as well.
Call them to order, minister.
Increase access to this education. It can't just be, you know, on certain days that we talk about these things. It needs to be ongoing because the reality is that young people are having sex.
100%. And I think we should look at a few clips from the show before we continue, because there is a section called the hot seat and I want to put you in it.
What's up, son? Kade ngagcina. Uyaphila kodwa uma wakho. Uyazi ngamgcina ngalesikhathi esihlukana sesitokfela. Uyazi ukuthi la?
Ashe Madlamini,
Ngabe ungitshelile. Ngimfonela.
Madlamini. Motho mo go bere. Kana motho. Rona le 19. Ba no tloga atla le mama gagwe mo tleliniking ya Mthavazo. Ka go le bitse mama gagwe. Ha o tlo mo thetso ka celebrity.
All right. I can want to how. Get patient.
I think for me, what's really cool is that JiK'iZiNTO has really provided a platform for us to have more than just, you know, going physically to the clinic. Because I don't know about you, but for me, when I think about the thought of having to go to the clinic and go and ask a nurse about sex, like, what if she says, because Ntabi saying goes through the same thing. She meets this nurse who's her mom's friend, and because it's your mom's friend, now you're thinking, I'm going to tell this lady my thing. I know that doctors are not supposed to tell, but because she's my mom's friend, she might feel like she needs to insert herself in that situation. How do you navigate that? Like, please motivate me, okay? Pretend it's me. I'm suffering and I'm struggling and I need to go to the clinic. help me feel safe about the fact that nobody's going to judge me. Nobody's going to, because it's embarrassing. You're vulnerable when you're in that situation. How do we empower ourselves in that?
I always believe that you should be leading with the thought that prioritizing your sexual health is prioritizing you. So it's a part of self-care, because the longer you leave it, the worse it can become, especially if you're experiencing any forms of discomfort, if you're experiencing symptoms that are just not part of your menstrual cycle, right? Because menstrual cycle is pivotal to your sexual reproductive health. If you miss your period, if you're 7 days late, if you're experiencing any form of discomfort symptoms, especially prior to your period, those are things where you need to go to a clinic to seek help, right? But then if we add the element of now you've just had sex, right? And you're like, okay, but this is before my period starts. Am I in my PMS? But I'm not seeing symptoms. This is a good space to be asking those questions. There are a lot of challenges beyond the mental, where you go there and you're like, what if someone I know sees me?
Yes.
Right? It's really about having that confidence and saying, I'm here for myself and I need to empower myself. Because if I leave, where else am I going to go? And I think a lot of people just tend to not prioritize that. So I always just say, from a mental health point of view, always remember what you're going for. You're going to empower yourself so that you are okay. Self-care. Self-care is key. Now, what I love about the specific episode is when I want to call her the ally, because when Matlamini comes, she's like, oh, your mom, doesn't she? Patient, nurse, patient, practitioner, confidentiality, right?
Period.
So I love how she stood up and was like, I'm empowering you about what your rights are in this space.
Yeah.
And we really also need to be equipped on that. So beyond knowing information about what are these contraceptives and stuff, you also need to be empowered in terms of what are your rights when you are seeking access to these services. I always have these conversations with my friends where I'm like, when I go to the gynae and they give me those metals, like I think they're called not the stirrups, but the stirrups where they open, I always insist that they be warm. So putting like a warm towel just to make it warmer, so it's not cold.
You are even on the level where you can demand things when you get to the gynae.
Yeah, but it's my body.
Period.
Right? I want to feel comfortable. If I'm not comfortable, my gynae knows when I'm not comfortable, because she can literally, my vagina is a muscle. So I tense up. When she's doing a pap smear, she's like, Candice, breathe. Because I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But it's a mental thing, right? So if we can go through the mental aspect first and understanding why you're here. You're seeking a service. And in seeking the service, you have access to rights.
100%.
Right? Reproductive health care is human rights. Empowering yourself in knowing what you're entitled to, right? And if someone is making you uncomfortable, that you shouldn't just sit there and allow it, especially when they are going inside your body. You are allowed to be vocal. And I definitely think that a lot of Black girls, especially in the conversations around pain, are taught to just, or conditioned rather, to keep it to themselves. So this is why I'm always saying, be open, be vocal, and just speak your mind in terms of when you're not happy with something, but also be respectful in that, because people are there to do their job, right? I also love the part of the episode where Intabi's going in and she's just really overwhelmed, because she's just like,
where do I start?
Where do I start?
Yeah.
So also having an agenda for yourself is super important. So if you're there to get advice, write down the questions about what it is that you're looking for. If you're there to seek a contraceptive service, usually the nurse is meant to tell you, these are your options.
Yes.
And then you know your lifestyle best, right? So you have to give them information. Make sure you're not being force-fed to say, okay, you must just get on the pill, or you must just get on the patch. Make sure that you're speaking based on what your cycle's like, what your lifestyle's like, because it needs to be a conversation more than anything. So come in with agenda. And I think, again, it's just all tied to the mental health aspect of it. Like, feel confident enough to go in there, have an agenda, know what you're doing, but don't feel like you're the only one that's looking down, like people are looking down on you and judging you. Everyone's there for a service.
And everyone was birthed in that room.
Period. So I totally get it. And I just think the mental part is just always the biggest hindrance. Outside of other things that are in our not in our control, you know, like the wait time and everything. It's just a matter of just knowing that you're doing this for yourself.
100%. And educating yourself.
Yes.
I think there's so much that I've learned when I decided that I'm going to be the adult in the room and take control of my reproductive health. I remember there was a day I woke up and like I thought I had, what is it called? Cervical cancer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought that.
Okay.
Like, because I'm someone who just loves to like sit on the internet. And,
Did you like put all
note
the
to self,
symptoms?
I learned that you don't go on the internet for
Yeah.
information on stuff like that because I was
Listen.
sitting there for months thinking I'm going to die.
Because it's either you're pregnant,
You are
you
pregnant,
have cancer,
your period is coming,
or you're dying.
oh,
Those are the three. Like, because it's just, again, the face-to-face interaction is important.
With
where
a medical
with a medical
professional.
professional who can track your menstrual cycle, who can understand your lifestyle. Did you eat less this month? Were you stressed? And then they can actually determine through other tests to say this is actually
This
what's
is what's
going
going
on.
on.
To determine whether you have cervical cancer, Google's not.
it's not the wine.
It's not in the wine.
I genuinely thought
You need a
because
pap smear.
Looking at all
Yeah.
the different, yes.
Yeah.
So then I found out I need a pap smear because I remember the year before my period had gone on for like 16 days. And I was like, 16 days?
Yeah.
Then I went to the doctor helped me out. She tatted me through it and then put me on contraceptives to help regulate the
period
hormonal.
and the
this is the
menstrual
thing is
cycle.
like,
Yeah.
that was the first time I learned that contraceptives can be used for more than just sex.
Pregnancy, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And then I go for the pap smear eventually because I psyched myself up to do it because I read that they're going to insert me
Yes.
to open. I
Yes.
shaved. Look, that day I was ready. I was like,
It's like going on a date.
no!
It's like,
what kind of date are you doing that?
hello, hi. It's me, but it's also me.
I was so nervous.
It's me, but it's also me.
I was so nervous. I was like, should I wax? I think the shave is fine. Should I do a clean shave? Should I just do a fade? Like, what
Yeah.
do I do? And then I do the whole thing. And when I get to the doctor's office, I'm sitting, I've psyched myself up for this thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, cool. Just have a few questions for you. So I'm like, okay. But like, now you need to answer these questions honestly and with confidence. Because if
Yes.
you're not honest, you're not going to get the accurate help.
100%.
Right? So she says, oh, yeah. So when was the last time you have sex? And I was like, the last time oh, there's no first time. And then she burst out laughing. So now I'm sitting there like, okay, am I confused? Did I miss something? And then she tells me like, no, a pap smear, this is how you get it. HPV virus, da 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 da. So if you haven't had sex, I can't give you a pap smear, my baby. And then I was like, okay. And then I packed it up and I went home. So disappointed that I didn't have my cancer
ready.
results. I was ready.
You're
I
ready.
even shaved
But
and everything.
when you do see a gynae for the first time, they're meant to do the ultrasound and also just do insert just to check that your reproductive system is in check. So you were still meant to.
Oh,
be-
but it wasn't a guy, it was a GP.
Oh,
'cause
okay,
was
I see.
Yes, I have
All
to.
right.
She must tell me that it's so serious, my baby. It's time for
Okay,
you
that's time to go.
to the new level.
I get you.
That's something that still needs to be figured out. I actually wanted to ask you, is there a place for me to access a gynecologist if I don't have like medical aid?
Well, the issue is that the access to the pricing is always the one thing that gets people, right? So you do have institutions that do provide gynecological care that is more affordable, where you'll be able to speak to the gynae. They get a sense of understanding your menstrual cycle, and then they want to, and then usually they'll do like an annual checkup. So
Okay.
the annual checkup will consist of the pap smear. We'll do the ultrasound and make sure that everything is fine. I do know institutions like Harry Stopes provide those things, and yeah. I always advocate for going to the Stopes. I call it the Stopes.
Do you see? And that's the thing now.
Because
now you're
it's
mentioning
affordable.
Mary Stopes.
Yeah.
But in the circles of university and high schools, Mary Stopes, you don't go there, my baby. If we see you there, it means something.
Don't hate on
is
the
happening.
Stopes.
But now you've opened up my world because I didn't know that they do checkups.
Yeah, they do checkups.
Normal things. I just
Yeah.
know that they just finish
They
it off.
provide contraceptives. Yes, they do the fetus to fetus, but there also is a part for you to have a conversation with the nurse before you get your contraceptives. They do want to have a conversation about why you're going on it. Is it specific, or is it just wanting to not fall pregnant? And then they talk you through the different options which they have. So the Stopes is really great.
And
I know a lot
affordable.
of people, and affordable.
Which is important.
And they also do have pricing plans. So if you're like, I can't pay this fully, you can arrange that. And I think that's really great because, guys, Cyril's economy.
It's tough. And I think that's why I'm asking you this question because
Yeah.
I know within the circles that I operate in, the biggest conversation has always been, will I be able to afford it? Will I be
Yeah.
able to maintain it?
Yeah.
And especially if you don't have the support of a parent or a community at home, the people who are breadwinners and financing your life
Yeah.
are not supportive of your sexual journey, but it's something that's happening behind closed doors. There needs to be places and avenues that we are taught thought of that, okay, you can go to the Stopes, you can go to this place, and this is how you'll be able to afford it and work through it.
Period.
But it's time for our hot seat questions.
Girl.
Very easy questions. I believe in you, Minister. You've given us so much information. You can do it. Are you ready?
Who do I speak to? Where's the manager? I'm joking. Let's go.
Question number 1.
Okay.
Miss South Africa. I'm joking. Okay. How important is communication in relationships?
Okay. I mean, this is an edit to the sound guy, right? You need to start adding inspirational music. Okay. Communication is super important. It doesn't just speak to the level of emotional intimacy and getting to know whether we connect here, but also unpacks whether we connect here, right? I also feel communication in the bedroom is so important. Having safe words, right? Speaking about what you like and what you don't like is very important. But in order for you to communicate to your partner, you need to know you first. I know there's a lot of times where people just walk into relationships going first-time expectations based on what social media or what society has told me. But it's really important that when you are with someone, that you really get to know what the expectations are from an intimacy point of view. How often would they want to have sex? How important is physical touch to them? Like, these are very important things that you need to speak about. You don't just go to be like, I like you, great.
All right, now we are dating. It's just going to happen.
Like, no, it doesn't work that way. I wish it was that easy. Because dating, guys, the dating streets.
That's a conversation for another year, even.
Listen,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. But I think communication is really important and fundamental. And I genuinely feel like you have nothing to lose when you're being open and honest with your partner and expectations so that they can know whether they can match and meet them. Period.
So good. Thank you, ma'am. Question number 2.
Okay.
Consent. Well, the rules of engagement when it comes to consent.
Look, I think there's just always so much debate, especially in the world that we're living in, where there's just this rise of, I don't even know what to call them, bruvs. Bruvs. Oh, the bruvs. The bruvs.
I'm trying
where they'll
not
be
to
like,
scream.
if she drinks, then consent is whatever. Like, yes means yes, and no means no matter the circumstances. And even if I have made it clear that I want to engage with you physically and we're getting sexually intimate, and even when I say no whilst we're getting sexually intimate, respect that no. Respect it. I genuinely feel that there is a mental health aspect that maybe we need to be having a conversation with men about, where, men have this whole body count clock.
Oh,
where they want to prove that, there's
100 girls.
Yeah. And so how many of those body counts are consensual? Is the question that I have. Because it's a point that, you want to level up your ego.
Yes.
So that's a conversation I think we need to be having as well, where boys in particular need to understand that your worth in society isn't tied to how many girls you have, or it's really, the positive masculinity needs to come through. And I don't think that's the work of women.
She said, I think we are done here.
No. I'm not. No.
It's a lot.
We need more positive male figures that really understand what masculinity looks like without it being harmful towards the other. And it needs to also look at it not being transactional. So we're not looking at it constantly like, oh, my ego is based on how many girls I slept with this week.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Let's rest.
But, shout out to the boys that do get it right. Because, in the episode, I think I remember Tay pulling out an expired condom.
Yeah.
And she immediately was like...
No, that was an empowering moment. She was like, oh, no.
I'm not doing that.
I love that.
But I don't think she would have had the guts to pull that off if she didn't take the first step of going to the clinic, checking out, learning,
100%.
empowering herself. Because if you're in a state where you're just allowing everything... Very scary.
Yeah.
Very, very scary. And then question number 3.
Okay.
What do you say to a young person who is just becoming curious about sex?
Wow. Look, you've entered a very interesting and fascinating world where it really is about empowerment. I think sexual liberation is the most empowering thing when you get to really find out the things that you like. And because it's so fluid, right? Like I think we often think about sex being very vanilla and conservative, but there's
That's
so
how
many,
we were raised.
There's so many, yes, but there's so many layers to it. There's so many flavors. And so you've just entered part 1 of the Nollywood film. You know how Nollywood films have parts?
You kill me
so
so
many
much.
parts. Yeah, there's so much to discover. Even in my big age, I learn about so much. There's documentaries I watch where I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know that's a thing. And, you know, you then discover you. In full, like you discover what you've been influenced in, how you've been brought up. 100%. But then when you're in relationships now, you're like, I'm being challenged here where I want to make my person happy, but I know strongly that sexually this is where I lie or where I stand.
And speaking of that, it ties into the last question that I was going to ask you, which is, do you have to have sex in a relationship? Because what you're touching on is a very, I guess, common and prominent thing where for most girls it's like, I don't necessarily want to have sex, but this person wants to have sex, and this is what I'm going to do to keep the person. When in actual fact, he can really walk even after that.
Yeah, 100%. There are couples that practice celibacy in relationships as a way to strengthen intimacy because they've probably been thought or lied to that sex is the one thing that keeps a bond. And they realize, no, actually, perhaps it isn't. Let's work on other aspects of our relationship to strengthen it. But that's purely dependent on the couple. So my answer to that is, yes, you don't need to have sex in a relationship. I just think it's the expectation society that you have to, and that's what keeps the bond alive. And sure, but I think there's other things that you need to prioritize in your relationship, like, because sex is only...
like you?
I mean, in certain cases, for some 30 seconds, in certain cases for people, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. But after those minutes are done, what happens? Are you checking in? Are you chatting? Are you like, there's more to it. So I think, I wouldn't say it's a necessity, but I just think that there are people who choose to practice abstaining as a way to strengthen their bond.
Yeah, so how then would you navigate that? Because my thing is, if I start dating someone and they say they don't want to do it, but I want to do it, what then becomes the...
I mean, that's a value
middle.
both of you. Unfortunately, you guys don't nearly see eye to eye because for them, physical intimacy is very important. But is physical intimacy going all the way? Do they perhaps only want cuddles? Do they would like their hugs? Is there something else that can be practiced? But then for you, when you're thinking celibacy, you're thinking like a no-go, like there's nothing physical happening. So then conversations would have to be had as to whether a compromise can be met. And if a compromise can't be met, and someone's like, yeah, sure, I can do it, but you can slowly see resentment coming up, then you know that this person actually can't honor the commitment. So unfortunately, then you would have to end the relationship. But I genuinely feel like these are important first date conversations, right? Outside of asking, what is your favorite color? What are you watching right now? Ask, like, what are important love languages for you?
Which is tough because I feel like in our generation, it's kind of been made like, don't ask those questions on the first date, ask them later. But I'm always like, guys, if I don't ask on the first date, how will I know?
Exactly.
That this
and
is a
how we're
person I
going to be
can work
compatible
with?
and match with. Like, I'd rather, personally, I'm that girl where I just go not guns blazing, but
hi, say.
Yeah,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
But honestly, I am that type of girl where I'd rather want to know from just a spiritual, emotional, mental, like physically connection. Are we connected? Because what's the point of drawing this out if we're just pretending for the sake of what? The gram? No. Let's be honest. Let's shoot straight from the hip and just go, what is it that you're looking for? And oftentimes, people will be dishonest in the beginning, but you can pick up on that. Like, you can really pick up on it from the get-go. So ask those questions. There's more creative ways in which you can ask to find out. It doesn't have to be like, okay, question 1. So what are your love languages? Okay, question 2. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? No, it doesn't have to be that way.
Let it be
It can just be a natural thing, right? And let that just be. Like, enjoy the process as well. We take it too seriously sometimes. I think.
It's a serious situation.
No, like, get to know someone. At the end of the day, we're all people here, and it's also you're just meeting a stranger for the first time, right? So you don't know their history, you don't know how they're brought up, but you
100%.
are attracted on the fact that I like you, you like me. Let's see where this goes. Don't take it too seriously.
Hello.